At first, you think the light is a star. There is only one problem. Stars do not usually appear between the trees. You stop in the middle of the road, or at least where you believe the road used to be. Snow whirls around you in great white sheets. The forest has almost disappeared. The mountains are gone. Even your own footprints survive only a few moments before the wind quietly fills them again. And somewhere ahead, through the storm, a single golden light is shining. You have no idea who lives there. You have no idea what waits beyond those trees. But after hours of wandering through the snow, you know one thing. Whatever that light belongs to, it has a roof. And tonight, that is enough. So if quiet fantasy journeys like this help you relax, you can leave a like and subscribe for more cozy stories. Now, dim the lights, get comfortable beneath the blankets, and leave the storm outside for a while. There is a warm tower waiting somewhere ahead. The road disappeared sometime before sunset. You remember it clearly, a narrow track winding north through the forest. Old wagon ruts beneath frozen mud, occasional wooden markers nailed to the trees. Nothing complicated. The innkeeper in the last village had assured you that following it would eventually bring you to another settlement before nightfall. That had been many hours ago. The settlement never appeared. Instead, the snow came. At first, it was beautiful. Small flakes drifting lazily between the pines. The kind of snowfall that makes the forest quieter, softer, almost peaceful. Then the wind changed. The mountains vanished behind gray cloud. The snow grew heavier, and within less than an hour, the road beneath your boots became indistinguishable from everything around it. Now darkness is coming. You continue toward the light. Your cloak is covered in snow. Your gloves are wet. Your fingers ache whenever you move them. Each step requires more effort than the last. The snow reaches halfway up your boots in places. Beneath it lie roots, stones, and frozen branches waiting to catch your feet. The forest around you has become a world of shadows. Tall pines bend beneath the storm. Their trunks appear for a moment, then vanish again behind blowing snow. You keep your eyes on the light. Sometimes it disappears. Whenever that happens, you stop. Wait, watch. Then the wind shifts, and there it is again. Golden, small, steady. You move toward it. The ground begins to rise. You climb slowly. Your breathing becomes heavier. The forest thins, and gradually, the shape behind the light begins to appear. At first, you see only stone, a dark vertical line among the trees. Then another light appears higher above it, blue this time, soft and pale. Then a third. You stop. This is not a cottage. It is a tower, a very tall tower. It stands upon a rocky hill, surrounded by pine trees. The lower walls are made from enormous gray stones, darkened by age. Higher up, the tower becomes narrower. Small windows appear at irregular intervals. Some are round, some are narrow. One appears to be shaped almost like a crescent moon. Warm yellow light glows behind several panes. Near the top, 3 windows shine with a faint blue color. A steep roof rises above them, covered beneath so much snow that its original color is impossible to guess. Chimney leans slightly to one side. Smoke pours from it. The wind catches the smoke and carries it across the forest. You smell it. Wood smoke. Real wood smoke. After hours of frozen air, it might be the finest scent in the world. A narrow path leads toward the tower. Strangely, there is less snow upon it. You step onto the stones. Warmth rises faintly through your boots. You stop, look down. Snowflakes landing upon the path melt almost immediately. Somewhere beneath the stones, tiny amber lines glow for a moment and disappear. Magic. You stare at them. Then, another gust of freezing wind pushes against your back. Whatever questions you have about enchanted pathways can wait until you are indoors. You continue climbing. The tower grows stranger the closer you come. Small copper bells hang beneath one window. Despite the wind, they make no sound. A wooden birdhouse is attached halfway up the wall at a height no ordinary person could possibly reach. Something small and round is sleeping inside it. You decide not to disturb it. Near the entrance stands a stone statue of an owl. Snow covers its head. As you pass, one stone eye opens. You stop. The owl looks at you. You look at the owl. A second eye opens. For several quiet seconds, neither of you moves. Then the statue closes both eyes again. Apparently, you have been approved. The front door waits beneath a rounded arch. It is made from dark oak and reinforced with iron. Symbols have been carved around the frame. Stars, leaves, moons, several things you cannot identify. There is no bell, no knocker. You raise your frozen hand and knock. 3 times. The sound disappears into the storm. Nothing happens. You wait. Snow gathers upon your shoulders. Perhaps nobody heard. You raise your hand again. Before your fingers reach the wood, something clicks. The door opens. Warm golden light spills across the snow. You blink. An old man stands on the other side. Long silver-gray hair falls loosely around his shoulders. His robe is dark blue and appears to have been repaired in several places. A pair of small spectacles rests on top of his head. Another pair hangs from a cord around his neck. He holds a candle in one hand. For a moment, he simply looks at you. At the snow upon your cloak, at your frozen gloves, at the darkness behind you. Then he steps aside. No questions, no suspicion, no explanation. None is needed. Warmth flows through the doorway, and you enter. The door closes behind you. The storm disappears. Not completely. You can still hear the wind somewhere beyond the thick stone walls. But now it sounds distant, almost harmless. You stand in a circular entrance hall. Your eyes need several moments to adjust. Candles float near the ceiling, not upon chandeliers, not attached to anything at all. They simply hover in the air, their flames steady despite the draft. A wide staircase curves upward along one wall. Shelves occupy another. Books, boots, jars, bundles of herbs, a brass helmet with antlers, 3 umbrellas, a wooden box labeled with letters you cannot read, and an enormous green bottle containing what appears to be a miniature thundercloud. Lightning flashes inside it, very quietly. You stare. The old wizard notices. He reaches over and turns the bottle slightly so that its label faces the wall. Apparently, that solves the problem. Then something tugs gently at your cloak. You turn. Nobody is there. The cloak lifts from your shoulders by itself. You freeze. It floats across the room. Water drips from its hem. The cloak hangs itself upon a wooden peg beside the fire. Your scarf follows, then your gloves. One glove attempts to follow the wrong scarf. The wizard points toward the correct hook. The glove changes direction. You begin to suspect that magic in this tower is not always perfectly organized. Your boots are next. You remove them yourself before they can develop ideas of their own. They are placed beside a small iron stove. The heat immediately begins drying the leather. You stand in your stockings upon a thick woven rug. For the first time in hours, your feet are warm. You almost laugh from relief. The wizard gestures deeper into the tower. You follow. A short corridor opens into the largest room you have seen so far. And suddenly, the storm feels impossibly far away. A great fireplace burns beneath a curved stone mantel. 2 armchairs sit before it. Neither matches the other. A long wooden table occupies the center of the room. Books cover almost every available surface. Some are stacked neatly, others are not. One pile leans so dangerously that you instinctively step around it. Shelves climb all the way toward the high ceiling. A ladder rests against them. As you watch, the ladder quietly slides several feet to the left by itself, then stops. A copper kettle sits above the fire. Steam curls from its spout. Bundles of rosemary, lavender, mint, and unfamiliar silver leaves hang from wooden beams. Their scents mix with smoke and something cooking in the next room. Your stomach notices immediately. A cat is asleep in one of the armchairs. At least, you assume it is a cat. It is black, it has whiskers, it has 4 paws. These are encouraging signs. However, its tail appears to divide into 2 separate tails near the end. Both twitch as you approach. The cat opens one green eye, steadies you, then closes it. Another approval. You sit in the empty armchair. The cushion sinks beneath you. Heat from the fireplace reaches your legs. You hold your hands toward the flames. At first, the warmth hurts. Your fingers tingle. Then ache. Then slowly, finally, relax. You close your eyes, only for a moment. Wood cracks in the hearth. The kettle begins to hum. Wind circles the tower outside. But here, there is warmth. Stone walls, fire, a roof. You are safe. When you open your eyes again, a cup has appeared upon the small table beside you. You did not see anyone place it there. Steam rises from dark amber tea. A slice of orange floats on the surface, beside a cinnamon stick. Honey rests at the bottom. You wrap both hands around the cup. Warmth passes into your fingers. The first sip tastes of spice, fruit, and something floral you cannot identify. It is sweet without being too sweet, hot without burning your tongue. You take another sip. The wizard moves quietly around the room. He adds a log to the fire, checks something simmering in a pot, moves 3 books from one chair to another, then apparently forgets why he moved them and returns them to the first chair. The cat watches all of this with the tired patience of a creature that has witnessed it many times. Nothing is asked of you. That feels strangely comforting. You do not need to explain why you were in the forest. You do not need to justify getting lost. You do not need to decide what happens tomorrow. The snowstorm has already made those decisions. Tonight, you are staying here. You look toward the windows. Snow presses against the glass. The storm has grown stronger. Beyond the panes, the forest has completely disappeared. There is only white darkness. The wizard approaches one window. He touches the frame. A faint golden line runs around the glass. The rattling stops. Another small piece of everyday magic. No lightning, no thunder, no grand incantation, just a warmer window. The wizard returns to the fire. You begin noticing more details. A small model ship sails slowly around the inside of a glass bottle. Clock has 13 numbers. Its hands move backward. A broom in the corner quietly sweeps a patch of floor that is already perfectly clean. One book opens itself, turns 3 pages, seems dissatisfied, then closes again. Above the fireplace hangs a map. You recognize none of it. Green kingdoms, blue mountains, a silver desert, an island shaped like a sleeping fox. Small points of light move slowly across the parchment. Travelers, perhaps, or stars. You cannot tell. You do not need to. The mystery feels better without an answer. Outside, night finally arrives. You can tell because the windows change from gray to black. Snow continues striking the glass. The fire burns steadily. Your tea is nearly finished. The cat has moved from the chair to the rug and somehow taken up twice as much space. The wizard disappears briefly through a doorway. The smell of Sutter follows. Bread, herbs, roasted vegetables, something rich simmering in broth. You realize how hungry you are. The last proper meal you ate was before the storm, before the road disappeared, before the forest became a maze of white trees. That feels like another day now, perhaps another world. The wizard returns carrying a large wooden tray. Bowls, bread, butter, cheese, another pot of tea. Nothing extravagant, nothing royal. Exactly the sort of meal you hoped existed somewhere behind that distant golden window. The table begins clearing itself. Books lift into the air one by one. A bundle of parchment rolls itself closed. 2 quills jump into a cup. One book refuses to move. The wizard stares at it. The book remains stubbornly where it is. Finally, he picks it up himself. You hide a smile. Apparently, even wizards have objects that do not cooperate. Soon the table is ready. Outside, snow buries the road. Inside, bowls begin to steam. You rise from the armchair. Your legs still feel tired, but the cold has gone completely. You glance once more toward the dark windows. Somewhere beyond them lies the path you were supposed to follow. Perhaps by morning, it will be visible again. Perhaps not. For now, it does not matter. The storm can have the forest. It can have the road. It can cover every footprint you left behind. The first thing you notice is the bread. It sits in the middle of the table beneath a folded cloth, still warm from the oven. When the wizard lifts the cloth, a little cloud of steam escapes into the candlelight. The loaf is round and dark at the edges. Its crust cracks softly beneath the knife. Beside it waits a small dish of yellow butter, a wedge of pale cheese, and a pot of thick stew that smells of rosemary, onions, root vegetables, and something earthy you cannot quite identify. After the frozen road outside, it looks like a feast. You take a seat. The chair shifts slightly beneath you. For one alarming moment, you think it might be enchanted too. Then you realize one leg is simply shorter than the others. Some problems, apparently, remain beyond magic. The wizard settles opposite you. The black cat takes a position between the 2 chairs, where it can observe the entire meal with professional interest. Its 2 tails curl neatly around its paws. The wizard fills your bowl. Potatoes, carrots, mushrooms, small pieces of tender meat, dark broth. You tear off a piece of bread and dip it into the stew. For several moments, you forget entirely about the tower, the magic, the strange map, the storm. There is only hot food. The bread is dense and slightly sweet. The butter melts immediately. The stew warms you from the inside until the last traces of winter seem to leave your bones. Outside, wind strikes the tower. The windows tremble. The fire answers with a soft crack. You eat another spoonful. There is no conversation. Strangely, you do not miss it. The wizard seems comfortable with silence. He eats slowly while occasionally glancing toward the windows. There is no worry in his expression, only the quiet attention of someone who has watched hundreds of storms pass over this forest. The silence inside the tower is not complete. It is filled with little sounds. The scrape of a spoon against a wooden bowl, the ticking of the strange backward clock, the low bubbling of the kettle, firewood settling in the hearth, wind moving around the stones outside, and every few minutes, a faint chime from somewhere high above. You cannot tell what causes it. Perhaps a clock, perhaps something in the observatory, perhaps the tower itself. The wizard does not react, so neither do you. The cat eventually decides that patience has been adequately demonstrated. It approaches the table. One paw rises. The wizard looks down. The paw returns to the floor. The cat waits. A few seconds later, the paw rises again. This time, a tiny piece of meat floats from the wizard's bowl. It drifts slowly through the air. The cat watches it. The meat moves left. The cat's head turns left. It moves right. The cat follows. Finally, it drops neatly into a small dish on the floor. The cat begins eating. You suspect this ritual happens every evening. Your bowl empties. Before you can decide whether taking more would be impolite, the ladle lifts itself from the pot. It hovers above your bowl. You look toward the wizard. He is buttering another piece of bread. Apparently, the decision is yours. You move the bowl slightly forward. Another serving pours itself. The ladle returns to the pot. You are beginning to understand the tower. Magic here is not performed. It simply happens. Quietly. A kettle fills a cup. A candle moves closer when someone needs more light. A log rolls itself deeper into the fireplace. Nothing asks to be admired. The enchantments are treated no differently from spoons or chairs. Useful things, ordinary things. You find yourself wondering how long the wizard has lived here. The tower feels old, far older than the man sitting across from you, though perhaps appearances mean very little when wizards are involved. Some stones near the fireplace have been worn smooth. Generations of footsteps might have done that, or perhaps only one pair of feet, given enough years. You look around the room again. There are signs of a long life everywhere. A walking staff rests in one corner, its wood polished from use. A faded red scarf hangs from a hook. Several maps have been repaired so many times that more thread than parchment seems to hold them together. On a shelf near the fire sits a row of small objects: a seashell, a silver coin, a dried blue flower beneath glass, a tiny wooden horse, a smooth black stone. None appear valuable, yet they have been given one of the safest places in the room. Memories, perhaps. Souvenirs from roads traveled long ago. The wizard notices your attention resting upon them. He does not explain. You are grateful. Some objects are more interesting when their stories remain just out of reach. After the second bowl of stew, you finally surrender. The chair seems softer now, the fire warmer, the storm farther away. The wizard clears nothing. He does not need to. The bowls lift from the table. You watch them float through a doorway toward what must be the kitchen. A spoon nearly misses. It turns in midair and follows the others. The bread wraps itself in cloth. The cheese disappears beneath a small glass cover. Then the table is empty, except for the tea. The wizard pours another cup. This tea is different, darker. You smell apple and cinnamon. A little honey waits beside it. You add more than necessary. No one judges you. The cat has returned to the rug. Its eyes are closed. Both tails move occasionally in its sleep. Outside, the snowstorm continues. You rise and walk toward the nearest window. Almost nothing can be seen. The forest has vanished. Snow sweeps horizontally through the darkness. The worn path that led you to the tower is already buried. Your footprints are gone. Even the lower branches of the nearest pines have begun disappearing beneath white drifts. There will be no leaving tonight. The realization should concern you. Instead, you feel relieved. There is no decision to make, no distance to calculate, no need to wonder whether another village can be reached before dark. The world has become very simple. Outside is winter, inside is fire. And you are staying inside. When you return to the hearth, you discover that the wizard has disappeared. For a moment, you are alone. Then you hear soft footsteps overhead. The floorboard creaks. Something rolls across the ceiling, stops, then rolls back in the opposite direction. You look upward. The cat opens one eye. Apparently, whatever is happening above is normal. You sip your tea. A few minutes later, the wizard returns down the spiral staircase. He carries several blankets. Or rather, the blankets follow him. 3 of them float behind his shoulders like unusually tired ghosts. He places one upon the back of your chair. Another folds itself beside the hearth. The third drifts toward the cat. The cat immediately stands, turns around twice, then settles upon it. Clearly, there is a hierarchy in this tower, and the cat is near the top. You pull the blanket around your shoulders. It is thick wool, slightly rough, warm. The wizard sits in the opposite chair with an old book. His spectacles remain on top of his head. He reaches toward the table, feels around for them, checks beside the chair, looks beneath the book. You watch. Eventually, one hand touches the spectacles above his forehead. He pauses, then lowers them onto his nose. No magic is used. You hide another smile. The book opens. Its pages are yellow with age. Tiny handwritten notes fill the margins. The wizard begins reading. You do not. Instead, you watch the fire. There is something pleasant about sharing a room with someone who does not require your attention. You can simply exist here. The wizard reads. The cat sleeps. The kettle occasionally sighs. The storm works very hard outside and achieves absolutely nothing against the thick walls. Time passes. You do not know how much. The backward clock is no help. Its longest hand has moved from 11 to 9. Perhaps that means an hour. Perhaps tomorrow is getting farther away. You decide not to worry about it. Your gaze wanders toward the shelves. Thousands of books surround you. Some have titles written in gold. Others have no titles at all. One is chained to its shelf. Another is wrapped in blue ribbon. A very small book is tucked between two enormous volumes. Every few minutes, it seems to move slightly farther out. You watch carefully. It stops. You look away. When you look back, it has moved again. You decide that tomorrow's problems can include mysterious books. Tonight's cannot. Eventually, the wizard closes his volume. He stands. The floating candles brighten slightly. You sense that something is about to happen. Not danger. Nothing in the room changes enough for that. Instead, the wizard moves toward the spiral staircase. He pauses at its base and looks back, then upward. An invitation. You place the blanket aside. The cat remains asleep. The fire will wait. You follow. The staircase curves around the inside of the tower. Up close, you notice that every step is slightly different. Some are stone, some wood. One appears to be made from green glass. Another has a small brass plate engraved with a moon. The wizard climbs without hesitation. You follow more carefully. The first landing opens onto a narrow corridor. Shelves line both walls. Not books this time. Jars. Hundreds of them. Dried leaves, seeds, roots, powders, tiny mushrooms, feathers. One jar contains what looks like ordinary sand until a miniature wave rolls across its surface. Another holds snow that does not melt despite the warmth. A third contains 6 fireflies, glowing softly blue. The wizard passes them without stopping. At the end of the corridor is a small room, an alchemist's workshop. A copper apparatus occupies one table. Glass tubes twist between bottles. Mortars and pestles sit beneath shelves of ingredients. Nothing bubbles dangerously. Nothing smokes. The room smells of herbs, wax, and dried citrus peel. A single blue flame burns beneath a glass vessel. Inside, a clear liquid slowly turns violet. The wizard checks it, adds 1 dried leaf. The liquid becomes gold. He seems satisfied. You have no idea what just happened. That feels appropriate. You continue upward. Another landing. Another door. This one opens into a library. The room is larger than should be possible. You stop at the entrance. From outside, the tower did not look wide enough to contain this space. Yet shelves extend far into warm, golden darkness. A balcony circles the walls. Ladders move silently along brass rails. Books fill every level. Thousands, perhaps tens of thousands. A fireplace burns at the far end. 2 lamps float between the shelves. The wizard enters. You follow. The door closes behind you. For a moment, even the storm disappears. The library is almost perfectly silent. You walk between shelves. Your fingers pass lightly across old spines. Histories, bestiaries, atlases, books of poetry, collections of letters, books about stars, books about plants, books about kingdoms whose names mean nothing to you. One entire shelf appears to contain nothing but recipes for soup. You pause there longer than expected. Farther along, you find maps. They hang from wooden frames. One shows the forest surrounding the tower. Another shows the mountains beyond it. A third shows a coastline hundreds of miles away. Then there are stranger maps. A city built in 7 circles around a lake, an enormous desert marked with moving silver lines, an island that appears only when you look away and note the mountains, a road drawn across empty ocean. You lean closer. The road disappears, then returns somewhere else. You stop trying to understand. The wizard moves toward a tall window. Snow swirls beyond it. From this height, you should be able to see the entire forest. Tonight, there is nothing. Only the storm. The wizard touches the glass. For a moment, the snow disappears from the window. Not outside, only from your view. The world beyond becomes clear. You see the forest below, pines bending beneath white weight, the buried path, the rocky hill, and miles upon miles of winter darkness. There are no village lights, no cottages, no roads visible through the snow. Only this tower, a single warm point in an enormous frozen wilderness. You understand something then. You did not merely find shelter. You found the only shelter for miles. Perhaps that should feel impossible. Perhaps it is. But tonight, you are too warm to question good fortune. The wizard releases the glass. Snow returns. The forest disappears. You leave the library. The staircase continues upward. There are more floors above. You can see doors, a narrow bridge strangely crossing the empty center of the tower, a round window filled with stars despite the storm outside. And somewhere much higher, a faint blue glow, the same blue light you saw from the forest. There is much more to explore, but the wizard does not continue upward. Not yet. Instead, he turns back toward the stairs. You follow him down, past the library, past the jars, past the alchemist's room, until the familiar warmth of the lower chamber returns. The fire is still burning. Your armchair waits. The blanket remains exactly where you left it. The cat has somehow moved into your chair. You look at it. The cat looks at you. Neither moves. Then one of its tails slowly lifts. The blanket slides from the chair beside it and drops onto the other seat. A compromise. You accept. You sit beside the fire. The wizard settles opposite you. Fresh tea appears. Outside, the snow continues falling. Inside, the tower has become quieter. You have eaten. Your clothes are drying. The road is buried. And above your head are floors filled with books, maps, herbs, stars, and small, impossible things. The night is still young. There is nowhere to go. And for the first time since seeing that golden light between the trees, you find yourself hoping the storm does not end too quickly. The fire is lower now, not dying, only settling into the slow, steady burn of late evening. Outside, the snowstorm continues to circle the tower. You hear it against the windows, a soft hiss of snow upon glass, the distant moan of wind around the roof. But inside, everything feels still. The wizard rises from his chair. Several candles brighten along the spiral staircase, one after another, higher and higher, a quiet path of golden light. You follow. This time, you continue beyond the library. The stairs grow narrower as they climb. The stone walls are covered with little things collected over many years. A brass compass whose needle slowly turns in circles, a dried wreath of silver flowers, an old wooden mask, a tiny landscape painted inside a walnut shell. There are no labels, no explanations, only objects from journeys you can imagine but never fully know. At the next landing, you find a room filled with maps. They cover nearly every wall. Maps of forests, mountains, kingdoms, rivers. Some are faded with age, others look freshly drawn. One enormous map covers an entire table. Tiny lights move slowly across it. A golden point follows a road toward the coast. 3 blue lights cross a mountain pass. A single green light sits motionless beside a lake. You wonder whether they represent travelers. The wizard watches them for a moment, then continues upstairs. Perhaps some journeys are better observed from a warm tower. The next room smells of dried herbs. Bundles hang from wooden beams. Lavender, sage, rosemary, and dozens of plants you do not recognize. Glass bottles line the shelves. Some contain ordinary powders. Others glow faintly. One holds a liquid the color of moonlight. Another seems to contain a tiny cloud. A third is completely empty, yet its cork is tied down with 3 pieces of string. You decide not to touch anything. The wizard moves between the tables, checking jars and adjusting bottles. There is something almost ordinary about the work. For all the strange objects around you, he looks less like a mysterious master of magic and more like someone checking a kitchen before bed. A blue flame beneath one bottle extinguishes itself. A spoon climbs from a cup and lies down upon a folded cloth. Several herbs drift gently into a wooden box. The lid closes. The room is finished for the night. So you continue upward. The staircase brings you to a small wooden door. The wizard opens it. Cold air touches your face. Beyond is a narrow balcony built around the tower. You step outside. The storm has weakened. Snow still falls, but gently now. The forest is visible again. Thousands of pine trees stretch beneath you. Their branches are white. The ground has disappeared beneath untouched snow. No road remains, no footprints, no sign of the path that brought you here. Only wilderness. You rest your hands upon the stone railing. Far below, warm light from the tower falls across the snow. The world beyond that little circle of gold is blue and silver. Quiet, beautiful. The wizard stands beside you. His robe moves gently in the wind. Neither of you needs to speak. For several minutes, you simply watch winter cover the forest. Back inside, you continue higher. At the next landing hangs a row of portraits. Old men, women in elaborate robes. Travelers, scholars, a knight with an impressive mustache. You approach one painting. The knight is asleep. His painted head rests against the edge of the frame. You look toward another. An elderly woman sits beside a painted fireplace, reading. She turns a page. You step back. The wizard seems completely unconcerned. One portrait farther down the hall contains only an empty chair. Whoever belongs in it appears to be elsewhere. You continue. The black cat suddenly appears at the top of the stairs. You stop. It was downstairs. You are certain of that. The cat looks at you. Both tails rise. Then it walks through an open doorway. You follow. The room beyond is small and circular. A telescope points to a window in the roof. Charts of stars cover the walls. Glass spheres hang from thin threads above a wooden desk. Inside each sphere, tiny points of light move slowly. The observatory. The blue glow you saw from the forest comes from here. Several crystals rest around the room, shining softly enough that no candles are needed. You approach the telescope. Through the glass, the storm seems to disappear. Stars fill your vision. Thousands of them, bright, sharp, impossibly clear. You pull back. Outside the window, clouds still cover most of the sky. Yet through the telescope, there had been nothing but stars. You look toward the wizard. He is adjusting one of the glass spheres. Again, no explanation, only another small mystery. You look through the telescope once more. A pale band of stars stretches across the darkness. Far away, one point glows warmer than the others, almost golden. You wonder whether someone else, somewhere unimaginably distant, might be looking toward this tower too. Eventually, you leave the observatory. The cat remains behind, or at least, you think it does. Halfway downstairs, you find it already sitting upon a shelf below you. You stop trying to understand the cat. It seems healthier that way. The tower grows warmer as you descend. Blue light becomes candlelight. Stone becomes familiar. Then you smell the fire again. The lower room welcomes you back. The armchairs wait beside the hearth. The kettle is still warm. A fresh log rolls itself onto the embers. Flames rise. You settle beneath your blanket. The wizard returns to his chair. For a while, he studies one of the old maps. You watch the fire. The tower no longer feels strange. Not entirely. You know some of its rooms now. The library, the workshop, the maps, the portraits, the observatory above the clouds. There are still locked doors, staircases you have not climbed, shelves you have not explored. But tonight, you do not need every mystery solved. Outside, snow falls gently across the buried road. Inside, the fire paints the stones gold. The wizard closes his map. The clock continues backward. And somewhere above, a painted knight sleeps peacefully inside his frame. You sink deeper into the chair. The storm brought you here by accident. But as the old tower settles into the winter night, getting lost begins to feel less like a mistake. By the time you return your attention to the room, the windows have grown dark again. Snow continues to fall beyond the glass, not with the violence of the earlier storm. Now the flakes drift slowly past the tower, large and soft, catching the golden light before disappearing into the forest below. The wizard remains in the chair opposite you. The old map has been folded away. In its place sits a small wooden box. He opens it carefully. Inside are objects that seem ordinary compared with everything else in the tower. A tarnished key, a smooth blue stone, several foreign coins, a tiny silver bell, a feather tied with red thread, and a piece of green glass, worn soft around the edges. The wizard takes out the blue stone. He turns it slowly between his fingers. And without a single word, you begin to understand that every object in this box belongs to a road he once traveled. The tower suddenly feels different. Till now, you had imagined the wizard had always lived here, surrounded by books, watching snow from high windows, studying stars while kettles poured themselves. But the worn staff near the door, the repaired maps, the old boots beneath the stairs, all suggest otherwise. Long before this tower became his home, the wizard had been a traveler too. The blue stone came from a city built upon bridges. You picture it gradually as the wizard places the stone beside an old map. A river divided into dozens of narrow channels, tall houses rising directly from the water, stone bridges connecting streets that never touched the ground. In summer, merchants covered those bridges with bright awnings. Boats moved beneath them, carrying fruit, wine, books, and flowers. At night, hundreds of lanterns reflected upon the river. The wizard had stayed there during a spring many years ago, not in a palace, not in some grand magical academy, but in a tiny room above a baker's shop. Every morning, the smell of warm bread climbed through the floorboards. You smile at the thought. Even wizards, apparently, appreciate convenient bakeries. The city still exists somewhere beyond the mountains. Perhaps the bridges are still crowded. Perhaps the bakery is still there. Perhaps another traveler is sitting above it tonight, listening to rain instead of snow. The wizard returns the blue stone to its box. Then he removes the little silver bell. This belonged to a place much farther north, a valley hidden between mountains. Winter lasted most of the year there. Snow covered the roofs for months. Yet every evening, tiny golden insects appeared beneath the trees. Fireflies. They lived nowhere else. Even during the coldest nights, they floated above the snow like sparks that had escaped from invisible fires. People in the valley placed mirrors beside their windows. The little lights reflected in them until the entire village seemed surrounded by stars. You imagine walking there at dusk, snow beneath your boots, mountains turning blue in the distance. Hundreds of warm lights drifting between bare branches. The wizard had remained there for an entire winter. Perhaps he had once been caught in a storm there too. Perhaps someone had opened a door for him. The thought feels appropriate. You pull the blanket closer. Outside your own window, snow continues falling. Another object leaves the box, a feather tied with red thread. This story seems stranger. Somewhere beyond the eastern hills stands an old forest inn. Only one road reaches it. The road is so rarely traveled that moss grows between its stones. Travelers who find the inn usually arrive by accident, much as you found this tower. The building is small, its roof is crooked, its sign has faded so badly that nobody remembers what animal was originally painted upon it. But the hearth is always burning, soup is always warm, and anyone arriving after sunset is given a bed. No questions until morning. You like this place immediately. The wizard seems to have liked it too. The feather came from a raven that lived above the inn door. It had developed the habit of stealing buttons from travelers. Eventually, the innkeeper began leaving unwanted buttons outside deliberately. The raven considered this acceptable. The story exists only through the objects, maps, and gestures before you. Yet somehow, you can see it all. A lonely inn, a forest road, a black bird guarding a collection of mismatched buttons. Another warm place in a large world. The wizard reaches for the tiny wooden horse from the shelf. This memory belongs to a kingdom that no longer exists. Its name has faded from most maps. Once, however, green banners hung from its towers. Orchards surrounded its villages. A white road crossed the hills from the royal city to the northern mountains. Then came war. Years passed. The towers emptied. The orchards grew wild. The road cracked beneath weeds. Now only shepherds occasionally crossed the old kingdom. The wizard had returned there many years after its fall. He found the remains of a village beneath snow. No houses survived completely, only stone foundations, a well, part of a wall, and beneath the floor of what had once been a home, this little wooden horse, a child's toy. You look at it differently now. Kings disappear, borders vanish, names fade from maps, yet sometimes a tiny wooden horse survives beneath the snow. The wizard places it carefully back upon the shelf. The fire crackles. Neither of you moves for a while. Then comes the story you like best. It begins with a book, a large red book from one of the lower shelves. Its cover is scorched around the edges. Inside are notes written in several different hands. The wizard turns a few pages. A drawing appears. A dragon. Not a terrifying one. At least, not in the drawing. The creature is enormous. Certainly. Long horns. Great wings. Smoke curling from its nostrils. But instead of lying upon piles of gold, the dragon is surrounded by books. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Long ago, somewhere in the western mountains, a dragon discovered an abandoned monastery. The monks were gone. Their library remained. And for reasons nobody fully understood, the dragon decided the books belonged to him. Travelers expected treasure. They found shells. Knights arrived hoping to steal gold. There was almost none. Only manuscripts, histories, poems, recipes, letters, maps. The dragon guarded all of them with equal seriousness. For the years, scholars learned to bring books rather than weapons. A rare volume might earn them several hours inside the library. A particularly interesting atlas might earn an entire afternoon. You look around the wizard's tower. Perhaps this explains some of the books here. Perhaps somewhere among these shelves is a volume once traded with a dragon. You decide not to ask. Some possibilities are better left untouched. The fire is lower again. The wizard closes the red book. The wooden box returns to the shelf. The room settles. You realize that the stories have carried you far from the storm without requiring you to move at all. Across bridges, through valleys, along forgotten forest roads, into ruined kingdoms, even into the library of a dragon. And now you are back, in the armchair, beneath the blanket, with the smell of cinnamon tea and wood smoke around you. The wizard adds one final log to the hearth. Flames curl around it slowly. The black cat has appeared again. You have no idea from where. It climbs onto the rug and settles near your feet. Both tails curl around its body. Clock continues its mysterious journey backward. You no longer care what hour it claims to be. Outside, the wind has almost disappeared. The snow falls straight down now, softly, quietly. The wizard notices the change too. He looks toward the upper floors, then toward the window. A faint blue glow appears upon the staircase. The observatory. You remember the telescope, the strange glass spheres, the stars hidden beyond the clouds. The wizard rises. You follow more slowly. The fire is difficult to leave, but something tells you the storm is finally passing. And high above the warm room, at the very top of the tower, the winter sky is beginning to clear. The staircase feels different at night. The tower below is warm and golden. Up here, everything slowly becomes blue. You follow the wizard past the library, past the sleeping portraits, and higher into the narrowest part of the tower. The black cat follows for several steps. Then it sits down. Apparently, even magical cats have limits. You continue without it. At the top waits the round door of the observatory. The wizard opens it. The room is exactly as you remember. A great telescope points toward the domed roof. Star charts cover the walls. Glass spheres float above the tables. Tiny lights move within them, like distant worlds. But something has changed. The storm is ending. The wizard touches a brass lever. With a quiet, mechanical sound, part of the roof begins to open. Cold air enters. You pull the blanket tighter around your shoulders. Above you, the clouds are breaking apart, and between them, stars appear. At first, only a few, then dozens. and hundreds. The last clouds drift east. The sky opens completely. You have never seen so many stars. You approach the edge of the observatory. Far below, the forest has become white. Every pine is covered in snow. The road has vanished. The hills are smooth and untouched. Moonlight spreads across the landscape until the entire world seems made from silver. There are no villages, no lanterns, no distant chimneys, nothing. Only forest, mountains, snow, and this tower. You understand why someone might choose to live here. Not because the world beyond these mountains is unwanted. The wizard's shelves prove otherwise. He has traveled. He has collected memories from cities, valleys, ruins, and distant roads. But perhaps, after seeing enough of the world, he found a place where he could finally hear its silence. The wizard stands beside a telescope. He adjusts the instrument, then steps away. You look through. The moon fills your vision. Craters, shadows, silver plains. You move the telescope slightly. Stars appear. One bright point becomes two. Another reveals a faint blue glow around it. The sky that seemed simple from below becomes enormous. Layer upon layer of distant light. You remain there for a long time. Eventually, the cold begins finding its way beneath your blanket. The wizard closes the roof. The stars disappear behind glass. Warmth slowly returns. You begin descending. The tower is almost completely silent now. The portraits sleep. The alchemy room is dark. The library's ladders have stopped moving. Even the strange backward clock seems quieter. When you reach the main room, the cat is waiting. Of course it is. The fire has burned down to deep orange embers. Your boots are completely dry. Your cloak hangs neatly beside them. The wizard takes a candle, then leads you toward another staircase. This one is smaller. It curves toward the guest rooms. You climb only one floor. At the end of a short corridor, a wooden door opens by itself. Beyond it waits a small room. A bed beneath the window, a thick quilt, a little fireplace already burning, a wash basin, a chair, and upon the bedside table, one final cup of hot tea. You step inside. The room smells faintly of cedar and lavender. Outside the window, snow continues falling, but now it falls gently. The storm is over. The wizard leaves you there. No words are needed. The door closes softly. You sit upon the bed. The mattress gives beneath your weight. For the first time since morning, you realize how tired you truly are. Your journey is finished for tonight. The road is buried. The forest is silent. And somewhere below, the old wizard is returning to his books. You lie back. Above the small fireplace, flames move quietly around the logs. Beyond the glass, moonlight rests upon the snow. Tomorrow can wait. Tonight, you have a room above the winter forest, and the tower is finally going to sleep.